The big news this week is Robert Mueller's press conference. I wouldn't even call it a press conference. It was a press statement. He came out, made a statement lasting about 9 minutes, took no questions, in which he reiterated the fake obstruction theory that he had put forward in the infamous Mueller dossier, as I call it. He acknowledged, as we all know, there's no collusion. There's no evidence of collusion. So that in many ways should have just ended the investigation. But the Mueller operation, which has shown itself to be partisan, biased, abusive, you name it, decided to go after the president on this tenuous theory of obstruction. Why is it tenuous? Because the theory of the case was that if President Trump was firing people like James Comey, daring to complain about the Mueller operation, he could be accused of obstruction of justice. But in point of fact, the president runs the executive branch. All these prosecutors answer to him. He has the constitutional authority and sometimes duty to fire and police them regarding misconduct. So they really had no business investigating the president, quote, for being president. But Mr. Mueller once again smeared the president this week in the press conference, suggesting that, again, quoting those controversial lines from the report, if he could have exonerated him, he would have. You know, that's the Alice in Wonderland approach to criminal justice. Verdict first, evidence later. So he's presumed the president guilty and then says he's failed to exonerate him. Well, as you know, our system of justice, especially as it's supposed to be implemented by the Department of Justice, presumes people targeted to be innocent. And if they can't bring charges, then they're innocent. That's the presumption of innocence. And to have a Justice Department official, that was his last gasp as special counsel, because he announced, I guess, he's closing the special counsel down, come out and imply a private citizen committed a crime, but for an opinion of the Justice Department that the president can't be indicted, he would be indicted, to me is just an outrageous abuse of power. And you know, if you've been following me here, I've never thought the Mueller report should have been written, because it was, as I said, an abuse of power in the sense the Justice Department had no business commenting on the president's duties as president. So you had that outrage, and they came up with 200 pages of, when several pages could have been done, about no collusion, and 200 pages intimating through gossip, innuendo, and as I say, legal higgle-piggle, or argle-bargle, you pick the term, suggesting improper activities by the president. But that wasn't enough for Mueller, because as I've talked with you about this before, Attorney General Barr saw this report before anyone else did, at least publicly, and he saw through what the Mueller operation was trying to do, dumping 400 pages of noise into Washington, D.C. to suggest through smoke and mirrors there was misconduct. And Mueller quickly concluded no collusion, and all this legal gamesmanship doesn't amount to a hill of beans in terms of obstruction. The law and the facts didn't warrant any indictment or any charges or any suggestion of criminal activity. So the impeachment momentum suffered a significant setback. That's why they're attacking Mueller. That's why they're threatening to jail Mueller. Congress is. But even that's not working because, not jail Mueller, but jail Barr, excuse me. That's why they're trying to target Attorney General Barr, because he blew up this effort to take out the president through the issuance of this report. And so the Mueller special counsel operation decided to escalate it, and they did it directly through Robert Mueller. You know, you haven't heard me criticize Mueller personally that much. Probably more. I've probably been more direct about Mueller's personal responsibilities and that he can't be trusted because of prior issues related to government corruption. But I think at least he had plausible deniability as running the special counsel, that he had all these crazy anti-Trump Democrats, pro-Hillary Clinton Democrats like Andrew Weissman running the operation, that he was kind of above it all, right? Well, he showed his true colors this week, didn't he? As an anti-Trump political activist. And I tell you what, for the Justice Department to allow him to have used this podium at the Justice Department to insert himself into the political debate over whether to impeach President Trump, that was a terrible mistake. And Attorney General Barr seems like a good guy. He seems like he understands the corruption at the heart of Spygate, is willing to do at least something about it. But I think he's been entirely too deferential to Mr. Mueller. And maybe it was politically impossible for him to get in the way of Mueller wanting to issue this press statement. But Mr. Mueller abused his authority on top of the abuse of the 400-page report he tried to smear the president with, by coming out and suggesting, without foundation, the president committed a crime. If he committed a crime, he should have said he committed a crime. And suggesting quite strongly, I wouldn't even call it a dog whistle, I call it a horn, to Congress that they can impeach him for the obstruction of justice charges that he was unable to show, unable to prove, or even to suggest happened. I've told you, don't bother reading the report, right? Well, if you want to go ahead, go read the report. And you're going to see there was no obstruction of justice. The president was truthful. He was cooperative. He rightly fired Mr. Comey over misconduct. And then he sees all these other abuses of power by the Mueller operation, the DOJ, and he starts complaining about that. Frankly, he should have shut down the Mueller operation. He would have been within his rights, constitutionally speaking, and as a matter of policy, to shut down this unconstitutional, abusive investigation. Mueller made a big show saying, well, we showed the Russians were interfering in the election. We didn't need a special counsel to show that. The evidence strongly suggests Russians were trying to interfere in the election. They haven't proven it yet. Let's be clear. Because the cases they brought against Russians on Russia collusion, on the idea of Russian interference, they aren't going to trial. Because they were indicting people abroad. They were never going to show up in court. And of course, Mueller didn't look at the idea that the Russians interfered in the election through Hillary Clinton, whose campaign used Russian intelligence through Fusion GPS to sick the Obama FBI and DOJ onto President Trump's team and President Trump directly. If you want to know about the basic corruption of the Mueller operation, he was tasked with investigating Russian interference in our campaigns, and he refused to look at Hillary Clinton's involvement in enabling that. You know why? Because his investigation was partisan. He was making use and investigating the corrupted dossier to target the Trump team.